We're going to start with the basic anatomy of the chicken. So wings, legs, thighs on both sides, and this is the breast. So we're going to start by removing the wing tips, and what we're looking for is this ball and socket joint. And if you just gently glide your knife, it'll pierce the skin and you'll see the separation of the joint, and then you know exactly where to cut. So to repeat that, start to open it, and you can see right there, we're right in between, and so it'll go right through. Then we're gonna turn this around. You can kind of pinch the skin here to start, because we're gonna take the leg thigh joints off carefully. And the fat lines in the chicken will almost tell you where to cut. So once you've separated the skin like that, you can pop back the joint. You'll see it exposes, and then you'll know where to separate the joint from the carcass. What you want to be careful of here is the best bite of the chicken is what's called the oyster. There are two of them, and they sit inside of a bone. It's kind of like a cup. So I'm going to use a boning knife because it's a little bit flexible. The blade is. And then it's just, you can see these, I'm just separating the joint as I gently make little cuts. So this is our leg thigh. This is where that oyster, that bone cup is. I left a little bit of meat on there, should have gotten off. So now we'll separate the other one. Same idea, you can use a boning knife. It has a more flexible blade, which can be helpful in separating the flesh from the bone. So at this point, I separated the skin. I'm gonna pop the joint, which you can see there. And then what I don't wanna miss is that oyster back there, right there. You can actually kind of pierce it with your finger. And then I'm just gonna trace this joint. Try to do this so you can still see. The oyster is right in there. And if I flip it over, I just want to show you where that is. You can see it's kind of that meaty part right there. So there's a little bit of, you can see it's like silver skin on top. So we just want to like pierce that a little bit, because then we know we can take it with us and not leave it on the bird, on the carcass. So you can see there, that's that little bone cup, and that's that premium bite of the chicken. And now that we have that released, again, we just take slow swipes. Sorry, it's a little bit awkward because I'm trying to show it on camera and you're overhead. And it just goes gently around that bone. The idea is we're trying to leave as little meat on the carcass as possible, right? Because that is the part that we're going to discard. So once we have these leg and thigh joints, I want to show you on those where I told you that the chicken, the fat lines kind of guide you where to cut. So this is the drumstick, this is the thigh. And if you see this fat line here and you feel right where that is, you can feel where the joint is. And that tells you where you need to cut, because it will separate right in between and then you don't have to cut through bone. It makes it really easy. So that's our thigh. You can trim up any extra fat to get rid of, or extra skin. And we'll do the same thing on this one. You can see, so drumstick, thigh, and you can see this fat line here. If I feel there, right on the inside of it is where that joint is. You can see how easy I can just go right through it. So trim up any excess that we don't want or need. And we've got another nice thigh and another drumstick. Now, that was all the easy part. Now is the more complicated part. So this is the back of the chicken. These are the wingtips. And again, this is the breast. So the first thing we're gonna do is take the back off. So to do that, again, on the side of the breast, remember I told you the fat lines show you where to cut. That's exactly what this is showing you. We're gonna cut on this side of the breast and on the inside of the wingtip and down through here. And we'll repeat the same thing on the other side and be able to separate that. So you'll wanna kind of hold this skin, kind of poke in there. I'm just gonna go up a little bit to start it. And what you'll find through here, the reason I'm using a bigger knife, is this is where the ribs are. So don't be afraid. You're just gonna cut right through those and then around through here, okay? You won't go all the way through yet, but we do wanna take this all the way through the top. So we're like this. We're gonna snap it back once we free up this side. So same thing, careful. Just gonna go up through that. And again, we have this fat line as our guide. And once we get down through here, you see we can pop that. Now I'm gonna take a smaller knife to kind of make those sweeping motions. So I've freed this part of the back. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. There's one little bone there. And make sure you get on the right side of, because otherwise it will pop up. So this is the back. And this you can put into a Ziploc bag and put in your freezer and make stock with, okay? So we'll set that aside. Okay, so now we have, again, this is our breast. This is the other side. And the next thing we need to do is remove this breastplate, which is a little bit hard to see. So I like to use my boning knife to remove that fat. And you can see here, you can see the outline of this sort of black and blue bone. And what we're gonna do is kind of cut into that, but try not to go deep to pierce the meat of the chicken. And we're gonna kind of trace that across. And again, in here and under it. And then you'll see there's like a little spot in between where it's light. And that kind of turns that corner. Same thing on both sides. You just trace the whole thing all around. So you can see there it's loosened. But what happens is the flesh sticks to the bone. So what I like to do is just kind of reach in there and loosen it. And then you're going to pick this up. Some release easier than others. If it feels like it's really sticking in there, you might need to reach a little deeper to separate that flesh to release it. You can see I'm kind of pushing my thumb down and pulling it up. What I don't, and you can see here as it's starting to come out, the shape of this bone, how deep it is. What I don't want to do is bring all the flesh with it. And that's why I was kind of, with my hand, separating it. So that's that bone. Now, you might think, why do we have to do that? Well, we want to keep the bones in the chicken because it makes for better flavor. But we can't cut through that until we remove it. So now that we've removed it, it's much easier. And you'll want to use your big knife here because there's just a tiny bit of bone on the underside. So now we have 2 breasts. And now what we need to do is cut these in half because they're enormous. And what we want is an even cook time between the 2 pieces. And this is obviously a lot thicker and this is thinner. So what we want is for this half to be smaller. And what I'm gonna do is cut this on an angle, kind of like this. So you'll saw through until you hit bone, and then you're just gonna press down. And now I have this part of the breast and the second part. I'm just gonna trim up this little extra skin here. And then we'll do the same thing on this one. So we'll want it smaller on this side, bigger on that side to ensure even cook time. And same thing. So when you're finished, this is what we end up with. Our 2 wings, our 2 drumsticks, 2 thighs, and our 4 pieces of the breast. So the reason to know how to do this is, 1, you can save a lot of money buying a whole chicken, especially if you're buying something higher quality that is organic. It's just kind of a good thing to know. This is the very classic French technique of breaking a whole chicken into its 8 pieces. If you have questions, you can comment below. And feel free to share this video with anyone that you think might find this helpful.